Hi folks, happy Friday to you. I trust you've had a good reading week and that you've been able to get a book or two under your belt. And on that topic, what have I been reading? I read The Immeasurable Heaven by Caspar Geon, and this is actually a cheeky advanced reading copy which was sent to me by the author a few weeks back. And the book itself is not actually out until I think it's mid-July, at least in the UK. I'm not actually 100% sure about elsewhere in the world, including the US, but let's assume for a minute it's around the same time. And if you're wondering who this Caspar Geon geezer is, it's a new name to science fiction publishing, but not necessarily a new author. I do plan to do a more in-depth review closer to publication date, and I'm also hoping to have a chat with the man himself, with the author, the mysterious Caspar, around then too. So that'll probably be second half of July, a little bit after it's out in the wild. So in the meantime, consider this to be a little bit of a teaser. This is a shortish book by today's standards. It's just over 300 pages, and it's apparently the first of what might become several books in the same setting. Although the story in this book does wrap up neatly within the covers of this one book. So we're not committed to reading others should they follow. Although there is plenty of scope for that, as we'll see. And I expect, of course, that further tales in this setting will be contingent on the success of this one. And having read this one, I do hope very much that I'll be reading more in the years to come. So in The Immeasurable Heaven, we're in the galaxy of Jochun's Depth, which is a very, very old galaxy that is chock full of life and the littered detritus that goes with it. But none of that life is us. None of it is human. Some of it is humanoid, somewhat symmetrical bipedal folk with arms and legs and something recognisable as a head. But most of life in this place is not humanoid. And one of the joys of this book is the rich array of life forms described within. And in fact, I'd say that the whole world building element of this book is a result of a first-class imagination. It's richly described, immersive even, with very little in the way of info dumping. Details are scattered throughout, incidental to the plot and the conversations that take place. We have to work a little bit, but not too hard, to build a good picture of what this world is like in our heads. And it is a complex place. The Thrallcold live in the centre of stars and are the long ago result of some AI singularity, and they police the galaxy by zapping anything or anyone doing something that they don't like. I could go on and on about the intricate details, the sheer weight of things going on, but I'd be here all day, and I will cover that in more depth, as I say, nearer the time of publication. So it's an interesting piece of work. So not content with this one richly imagined galaxy, the author then doubles down, or perhaps more accurately, infinites down. There's a multiverse element at the core of this story too, with layers of reality, the phase layers, younger alternate versions of the galaxy. Jochun's Depth is ancient, and at some point in the past, some cataclysmic event has caused a deep rent in its reality, the well. And the well's big, but more importantly, it's deep, very, very deep. And from this deep, perhaps infinitely deep well, emerges a scream, a cosmic scream from deep down, powered by multiple supernova. Someone or something has gone to a lot of trouble to send this message from far down the phase layers, and it warns that something is coming. So that's the basic setup for the plot. And there are three plot threads. One follows an agent of one of the rulers of Jochun's Depth, Wira, and she's tasked with stopping whatever is coming out of the well by drastic means if necessary. Another follows an explorer of the depths, Draybol, who has been mapping the phase layers for what turns out to be a very long time. His map, or atlas, has become a valuable commodity, and he'll be pursued across many phase layers for the taking of it. And then the third plot thread follows the thing, the being that seems to have found a way out of the well. And unlike the others, this plot thread is told in the first person, giving us a more intimate perspective. As you might expect, these three plot threads converge as the story comes to a head. I really love the world building. It's rich, it's dense, it's lush and creative, almost like a fever dream of a very non-human galaxy. That said, unlike some books where the world building is at the fore, The Immeasurable Heaven does not want for plot or action. So I think I can say that the world building is in service to the plot rather than overwhelming it. I enjoyed myself, and like I say, more on this book in July, closer to the publication date. Next, I read The Puppet Masters by Robert Heinlein, and published in 1951, The Puppet Masters is a tale rooted in the developing paranoia of the Cold War, with the second Red Scare well underway. We're in 2007 in the story, with the world settling into a new Cold War after World War III left smoking holes in the Northern Hemisphere some years back. And in this 2007, flying saucers have landed, and the aliens, slimy slugs, are taking over, riding their human slaves like jockeys, plugged into their nervous systems and working them like puppets. Spreading and breeding at exponential rates, the slugs promise to overwhelm poor old humanity worldwide before you can say Joe McCarthy. Neighbour suspects neighbours, broadcasts are intercepted, and whole cities are cut off, infested. Thank goodness for The Section, a super-secret government agency reporting directly to the president. And with their no-nonsense shoot-to-kill methods and hand-picked personnel, might they be mankind's last hope? You betcha. Sam is our hero, ably assisted by the beautiful and capable Mary, who has a murky past that becomes important as the story comes to a climax. Heinlein makes some rather clumsy parallels between the alien slugs and their communal mentality and communist Russia, with its people enslaved by an unnatural political philosophy. From his perspective, it's worth remembering that The Puppet Masters predates many of the 50s B-movies involving alien invasions, and it beats even the pod people of Jack Finney's Body Snatchers by 3 or 4 years. So it is maybe the tale of this kind. Who can tell which person is enslaved or hag-ridden? They look just like you and me, but with a slightly lumpy back under their jacket. Emergency legislation is passed to require everybody to go topless, leaving nowhere for the slugs to hide. But it turns out that they're a fair bit cleverer than that, and a more extreme clothing-related policy is required. But this is all a defensive or containment measure. Our newly starkers scientists and agents must find a way to kill off the slugs and then plot interplanetary revenge. So it's a ripping yarn with political allegory thrown in for good measure. And it does give some hints as to Heinlein's rather robust approach to doling out authority. At the end of a blaster and damn the finer points of law. Written in 1951, the gender roles are rather, let's say, traditional. And although Mary is a spunky agent in her own right, heavily armed to boot, she does end up playing the little wife a bit towards the end of the book. But it was a quick read, and I had fun while it lasted. So tell me, what have you read this week? Anything that you particularly recommend? Do let us know in the comments down below. Channel stuff next then briefly. Subs are at 5,873, up 33. And if you're one of those 33, or if you've just stumbled across my channel for the first time today, then a huge welcome to you all. I'm John, and I focus on collecting, reading and waffling on about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Deb down in Australia. And actually Deb has her own channel focused mostly, but not entirely, on science fiction. And that's Omnivorous Reader. I'll put the link in the description. And you should check it out if you don't know it already. Anyway, Deb thought it was very brave of me to ditch so many books in the clear out that I had the other day, the unhaul. Deb then launched into a brief but passionate rant about Red Rising by Pierce Brown, a darling of many a BookTube channel, particularly those that focus mainly on fantasy, and I shall say no more. But anyway, Deb thought that it was dire and DNF'd it, even though she was a captive audience listening in the car on a long road trip. I didn't think it was that bad, and allegedly it does get better as the series progresses, and I do plan to read them at some point. Deb says that it would almost have to, oh dear. Thank you to Deb for taking the time to leave a comment, and to all of you that do the same. As always, I do really appreciate it. Let's take a brief look at what was on the channel this week. On Sunday, there was that unhaul. I managed to clear a fair bit of shelf space in what I suspect is a mostly futile attempt to clear the decks. I do have a cunning plan to add more shelving, but that will require a bit of a reorganisation of my office and library, and is probably worth a video of its own at some point in the future. I do have to square that away with my better half first, and it's by no means guaranteed that I'll get permission. We'll see. On Tuesday, then, there was a closer look at Hyperion by Dan Simmons, a classic of the genre, and that I suppose I would describe as a higher effort video for me, but rather unfortunately, it's gone largely unnoticed by the mysterious gods of the algorithm. I did have slightly higher expectations for that one, but never mind. I think it's probably something that will pick up views from search in the long run. And in any case, I enjoyed making it. It was fun to take a closer look at that book. On the book buying front, things are afoot. Some orders placed recently have come home to roost, including some lovely additions from PS Publishing. One, a signed slipcase hardback, which I nabbed for £5, which is a bargain. I think the list price for it was £45. And I was pleasantly surprised to receive a book in the post the other day from a viewer that I wasn't expecting. So thank you to Christian for that one. And I also found a few things in my localish charity bookshop last weekend, including a nice addition to my little collection of women's press science fiction books. The to be hauled pile currently stands at 16, or maybe at 17, although that tally probably won't last for very long. On Monday, I will get my hands on a bunch of books that Whitney of Secret Source of Storycraft has lugged across the Atlantic. Plus, we're going book shopping for the day, so I can guarantee there will be more books. In fact, if you're not in any mad rush, it's a Friday after all, we can take our time. What I will probably do actually is do a little bit of an impromptu book haul, and I'll then clear the decks, and then June's book haul can focus on the books that Whitney's brought across the Atlantic for me and whatever we get at Bob's and Zardos Books. Okay, in no particular order, we've got Domino by Richard Cowper, which is one of his earlier books, and it's in not bad condition. I would say it's no more than very good. It's got a slightly kind of discoloured spine, and it's got a couple of small tears in the edges of the jackets, but it did only cost me a few pounds. I have had the habit recently of adding what I spent on the book to the screen, and I will do that for the main book haul video, but I won't have time to do that editing for this weekly update, so you just have to trust me. It was a few pounds. I couldn't tell you how much, 3 or 4. And then similarly, there's The Stars in Shroud by Gregory Benford in the Gollancz yellow jacket at a similar price, I think, for £5 or £6 maybe. And that's in really nice condition. And then today, was it today? Yeah, yesterday, in the post arrived Bee Speaker by Mr. Tchaikovsky. And this is the third book in what's now been described as the Dogs of War series. So the book one was Dogs of War, and then there was Bearhead, and then Bee Speaker is the third. And they've gone with a different style of cover entirely. The first two, Dogs of War and Bearhead, were stylistically quite similar, quite understated, kind of more graphic design than an illustration, I suppose. And this one's a bit brighter, yellow spine. Decent chunky book, I would say. It's 430 odd pages. So I'm looking forward to that. I really enjoyed Dogs of War, and I thought that Bearhead was great as well, although maybe not quite as good as Dogs of War. So I'd be interested to see where this fits in. I did like bees, who was a sort of distributed intelligence across, a swarm of bees. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we got Remainder by Tom McCarthy, which was sent to me. This is one from Christian. To beef up your next book haul video, well, here we are, at least by one. Cheers from Utah from Christian. Christian, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. And that's what I'm looking forward to. Allegedly, it is a book of quality. And then in similar fashion, but from a week or two back, is The Anomaly by Hervé Letellier, which again is meant to be, a phenomenally good science fiction book. And this one comes to me from Nikki. She says, "Hi, John. This one caught my eye and I'm just about to read it." That is. So let's hope that we both enjoy it. Yeah, quite. So that's from Nikki Mann. Thank you very much, Nikki. I the Tom McCarthy book, I do really appreciate it. That's really fantastic. And both Nikki and Christian have plucked those books off my Amazon wish list, which is there for all to see. The link is in the description for this and any video. But for Nikki and for Christian, thank you very, very much. Most unexpected, but very welcome. I actually had a bit of joy in a charity bookshop, the one that I usually go to in the Oxfam in Woodley, which is a few miles away from where I live. And I've got absolutely bobbins there for the last few months. And then somewhat unexpectedly, or without much hope, I went there again on Saturday of last weekend, I think. And I got a few things. So I was really pleased to find this. That's probably the find of the day. It's Joanna Russ, The Female Man, in the women's press science fiction from the 1980s. I did already have a copy of Female Man, but it was in the Science Fiction Masterworks. And this will have been the UK first edition, I believe. Most of the women's press books were first editions, the first time published in paperback anyway. So this is from 1985. So that's really cool. And actually, that's quite uncommon and difficult to find in anything like good condition. This one's not bad. It's got a couple of chips on it, but the spine is unbroken. So happy days. And then I found what I think forms a trilogy by Sean McCullen, who apparently is an Australian author, not one that I'm familiar with. I'm not sure. I think Souls in the... Well, actually, I don't know which order they go in, but they are. The Souls in the Great Machine, The Miocene Arrow, I think that's book 2, Eyes of the Calculor, which I think might be book 3. So they're fairly chunky books. I don't know what nature of book they are, but apparently it's boisterously entertaining. The book's plot is marvellous. Like soap opera and Shakespeare, it's filled with fights, romance, wenching, revenge, greed, duplicity and misunderstandings. A cacophony of schemery and slapstick that never fails to entertain. So, all right, I am intrigued. So these are all US editions from Tor. Quite what they were doing in the Oxfam bookshop in Woodley, I don't know. And then I also picked up Charles Sheffield Summertide. I haven't read any, I don't think, Charles Sheffield. And I have a handful now on my shelves. And if I see anything, particularly if it's in decent condition, then I grab it on the expecting to read it at some point. And this is in the Victor Clients, the VGSF science fiction. So that was a happy charity shop find. And then this is the 80th of 80 of the so-called Pan Lozenge books, which I've been seeking out for a while and have been unable to find even online. And finally I found a listing. I paid like £10 or £11 for it. I think it's a bit more than one would like to spend on a slightly faded and creased paperback. It's not in great condition. It's no better than good. I wouldn't have thought the spine is a bit mucky. It's not terribly faded, so that's quite good. But it is a bit. If it was paint, I'd be saying the paintwork's a bit bobbly. But it's a bit grubby, honestly. So I would probably like to replace it at some point. But as a collection completer, then I'm very happy to have it. And there will at some point when I can gird my loins and figure out how to do it, be a video covering that entire collection. And then talking of collecting things, the 23rd and 24th book that I needed of 25 is the final one winging its way to me now, I hope. And they are this is actually book 24 of 25, Hammer Slammers Counting the Cost by David Drake, and this one is Victims of the Nova, which I think is a trilogy. I think an omnibus, effectively, of 3 books by John Brunner, which is in slightly less good condition than the other one, but good enough. So I'm almost there with that one. And lastly, for this little impromptu book haul, then I've got 4 books that I got for inexpensive money, let's put it that way, from PS Publishing. These 3 were a total of £15, £16, call it for round numbers, including postage. Really not a lot of money, as you'll see, for what are really some lovely books. So this is The Complete Rhinoceros, which is by another Australian author, Terry Dowling. And apart from it, it's got really fantastic illustrations. There is a volume 2 and a volume 3. So volume 2 is certainly similarly weighty, and I think volume 3 is quite a lot shorter. And it's a collection of novels, short stories, novellas, which are set in the same sort of far future Australia, and tells a tale of big sand ships that go across the desert. And then there's sort of Aboriginal aspect to it as well. It's a rather nice book apart from anything else. It's very glossy, sort of solid feeling. It's a paperback, but solid feeling cover, and it's got the gatefold French flaps, I think they're sometimes called, too. It's not signed or anything fancy like that, but it's a very nice edition. And then I got The Disciples of Apollo by Eric Brown, which is a short story collection from a few years back, which is in pristine as new condition from PS. And this was reduced to a few pounds, £3 or £4. It's not signed, and so it's just the trade hardback edition. Very cool. And then the third one I got in that batch is this fantastic slipcase edition of a short story collection by Peter Crowther, who's the founder of PS Publishing, or one of the founders of PS Publishing, I gather. And so this is Things I Didn't Know My Father Knew, which is volume 1, the best short stories of Peter Crowther. And so it's in a very nice kind of laminated, printed slipcase. Very nice. And the book itself is, as the PS Publishing books often are, is printed on laminated boards, and it has a nice dust cover. And this one is signed by the author and by the illustrator, and it's number 346 of 500. The fact that this is volume 1 strongly implies that there's a volume 2 somewhere, but I haven't seen any reference to it on the PS website, so maybe that's a future plan for them. But this was reduced from £45 to £5. I thought, whilst wouldn't necessarily normally buy it for that kind of bargain, who could resist? And then finally, we've got this just arrived today actually, Extra Solar, which is a short story anthology edited by Nick Gevers, which springs out of the recent exoplanet discoveries by the Kepler telescope and others, and lots of large Jupiters and planets orbiting very close to their stars. And so there's a story set in those kinds of settings, which sounds fascinating. And again, it's a paperback book with the gatefold or French flaps at the ends, and that looks very interesting too. So that's everything for this little impromptu haul. There will be more to come. So on that subject, let's take a little look ahead. On Sunday, there will be a recap of May's reading, and I'll share my thoughts on the 11 books that I read during May, and I'll rank them and declare ultimately by my book of the month. On Tuesday or thereabouts, there'll be an overview of the Venture SF series, assuming that the final book actually arrives. So the timing of that video will depend on when, or if even, I receive that final book. And this will be the third time lucky. My previous 2 attempts to buy that flipping book, both ending in failure. So it might end up being later in the week, or not at all, if that book doesn't turn up. I think it will. I'm more confident about this one. Next weekend, there will definitely be that epic book haul. And after that, I don't really know. I'll be somewhat winging it a bit the next few weeks, I think, as life is going to get in the way. I have university open days to do with my youngest daughter, and then I have to collect child number 2 from her final year at university, which will, between them, will pretty much wipe out 2, if not 3 full weekends this month, taking with it quite a lot of my video prep time. I'm sure I'll be able to cobble something together, but things will be distinctly ad hoc for a while. So what will I be reading? I'm about 20% of the way through The Passage by Justin Cronin, an audiobook. It's going to take me a couple more weeks to wade through. I think it's quite a lengthy book, and the audiobook is quite long as a result. It's a bit early to say yet, but I'm enjoying it so far. Then I'm going to read The Siege of Burning Grass, which is a recent book by Primi Mohammed. And then if I finish that, then I will tackle Lincolnstein, which is a sort of short novel or a novella, which imagines quite a different ending to the Civil War, and you can see that Lincoln here has been rebuilt. That's everything from me. Have a wonderful weekend, and until next time, goodbye for now.